become as valuable as you can. The more valuable you become, the more the world rewards you. And I tell my kids that, I tell myself that every morning, how can you become more valuable to the marketplace, to the people you serve, to your spouse, to your kids, to your family, your relationships. So the thing is, how do you become more valuable as a person, right? So Jim Rohn just pounded forever, read books, take courses, and hang around people who know more than you, right?
Ladies and gentlemen, we're back here on That Entrepreneur Show. We might throw some curveballs, he says, as a former baseball player, but Mark is here as the founder of Greatness Institute and the Entrepreneurial Training Academy, author, 25 years of helping you improve profitability, ROI, communication, leadership, teamwork, vision, purpose. If any of those sound like your areas to improve, get ready for a good one. Mark, welcome to That Entrepreneur Show.
Thank you. Great to be here. I
Big
still
shot.
play baseball. I'm in a men's league, so still trying to do it. Got to stay young, forever young.
I love it. Well, big shout out to Trent for putting this together, and I'm excited to dive into his entrepreneurial journey. He's got a huge resume, analyzing over 300 dental practices to get his stuff going. Then he moves into bigger responsibilities, bigger achievements. But everyone, I want to welcome you once more to That Entrepreneur Show. Thank you for keeping this show a top 2.5% global show. Remember to subscribe to stay current with our at least one or two weekly entrepreneurs. And today we're going across the country. We were working out some time zone issues today. And now I like to always start, Mark, with why did you want to become an entrepreneur?
Well, it's interesting because right before this call, my father-in-law, Dr. Michael Schuster, he was a dentist, and he decided to start a business school, Center for Professional Development, kind of a entrepreneurial training academy for dentists, because like all business people, you don't get real any entrepreneurial business training in high school, college. It's mostly, reading books, memorizing. I was a C student and graduated from ASU with a marketing degree, but that degree didn't really mean that much, as far as teaching me how to invest money, communicate, financial investing, creation of value. That was the one thing my father-in-law, and it's funny you just brought up entrepreneurialism, because he just sent a text out or an email blog, and he said dentists or any other groups are not entrepreneurs. Dentists avoid risks. They lack positive vision. They don't see opportunities. Most people live in the past. They're looking over their shoulder. They can't see the future. They're sold on the myth that more, more production, more this, whatever you're selling. He said the main thing an entrepreneur is the creation of value. The more valuable you become, the better life rewards you. And that was like, I think Jim Rohn said that many times. Or Einstein actually says, become as valuable as you can. It's the more valuable you become, the more the world rewards you. And I tell my kids that, I tell myself that every morning, how can you become more valuable to the marketplace, to the people you serve, to your spouse, to your kids, to your family, your relationships. So the thing is, how do you become more valuable as a person, right? So Jim Rohn just pounded forever, read books, take courses, and hang around people who know more than you, right? You got to read the books, which people don't like to read anymore, take courses, listen to podcasts like you're doing, and just keep learning, keep absorbing. Like Jim Rohn said, for gosh sakes, when you die, don't leave your kids your big screen TV, leave them your journals, your library, And so I got into entrepreneurialism, or thinking about that, because when I worked with my father-in-law, after I graduated, I started a business and it failed. And if you ever read the E-Myth book, Why Most Businesses Fail, the E-Myth, entrepreneurial myth, most businesses fail in the first 5 years. If you're lucky, the other 20%, out of those 20%, only 80% of those fail. So the survival rate of a entrepreneur business is very small.
Yes.
So you gotta, like me right now, I'm looking to create strategic alliances. I think, like you do, I think the future for business owners is don't try to do it alone. Try to partner with people that you can collaborate on ideas, even share leads that you couldn't really help this person to the degree that someone else could, and let them share leads with you. And then continually surround yourself with people that know more. It's a grind being an entrepreneur, and it sounds awesome, but it's a totally different lifestyle because it's up to you every day. You can't blame the government. You can't blame your in-laws.
Yeah.
can't blame your people. Like even people that you have. I have a lot of dentists I work with, and they're always blaming their staff. And I said, well, you're the leader. You're responsible for bringing in the good people, training them, growing them. How you doing that? What's your strategy? And then most people don't have a strategy, right? Entrepreneurs are always looking at their strategy, like Seth Godin's, writes in his blogs. He just came out with a book called Strategy. I'd recommend it to your listeners. It's a compilation of like 40 years of all his work in the small little chunks. And he's got a lot of great advice for people who are marketers, entrepreneurs, and want to thinking about starting a business. So,
Well, you said something there, hiring good people, surrounding yourself with good people. You built your company up and had 60 employees, I believe. Could you give some
oh, yeah.
hiring tips, perhaps, to some of our entrepreneurs out here who, A, are just getting started with their hiring, or B, have made some pretty poor choices that don't align with their culture?
Yeah, I think one of the best books I read on that, Patrick Lencioni, he's out of California. He's written a lot of books, Five Dysfunctions of a Team, How to Find the Ideal Team Players. And that's probably the best book, small little book on. And he actually finally shares after 20 years, he works with Fortune 500 companies on that exact same thing, how to find the right ideal player for your team. And the three things he says in that book are when you're interviewing, the first one is, are they humble? And if they're not humble and their ego, then they're not going to make a good team player. Second, are they teachable? They have a teachable spirit. I think that was part of the first one, but the other one was not so much intelligence, it's emotional IQ. Do they look in your eye? Do they shake your hand? Emotional intelligence is far more valuable. And Fortune 500 companies are not so much looking so much at your resume as much as your college degree, but can you connect with people? Have empathy, compassion, really understand. And then the third one was, are they hungry? So, hunger, like, do they have a passion? But the great thing about that book is, how do you find that out when you're interviewing someone? How do you find out if they have a hunger, if their ego, and if their IQ? And the book has interviewing questions in it, how to find the ideal team player. And it's anybody that's looking at hiring anybody, those are some questions. And then the other thing he says is when you're hiring, always do it with two people, not yourself. Because if you're desperate to hire someone sees something else you don't see, they're like, hey, didn't you pick that up on that? Because you might be swayed a little bit, and the other person comes and says, oh, no. And then always, try to protect yourself. Give it a 30 or 60, 90-day working evaluation. And then both of you agree to say, look, after 90 days, you can say to me, hey, I don't think this is the right fit, and the other person can say the same thing, and you can separate, not in a bad way, but this will be better for both of us.
I love the open communication and surrounding yourself with the right people. And that's one of the ways to go ahead and scale. You positioned your company for 5 years in the national advertising division and won several awards for sales and marketing performance. Now
Yeah.
let's talk about some tips for scaling. We talked about some tips for hiring. As you successfully have scaled and done so again and again, what were some key things you did that you can attribute to some of your success?
It's not really magic. I think again, it goes back to get the right people. Like my main partner's been with me 25 years,
Love that.
and I never have to check up on her. She doesn't have to check up on me. We know our lane, we know our roles, we know we're disciplined, and there's trust there, right? I think the biggest thing today is trust. And that's part of Lencioni's book, The Advantage, How to Create Organizational Health. On the bottom of the pyramid, it's trust. That's the biggest piece. Without trust, there's no execution of ideas, there's no follow through, there's performance, you can't grow that culture. And like my son just joined us about a year ago, and the same thing. I don't have to follow up with him. I'm going to call my son. Hey, you working today? Did you get up out of bed? If I say that, I'm just kidding with him. But find people who, again, that are hungry, that take care of themselves, that exercise, that read books. You got to find people that are self motivated. And you can ask questions and you can find out pretty quickly if someone is self motivating. And that's the key to, having a great company, staying lean. And that's my answer to that.
I love it. Thank you for sharing, everyone. We've learned a lot of great tips and we're still just getting started. When you're in this growth I'm sure it looks good now that you're out, but in it, it wasn't always less chaotic than just the statistics and the stats show. So I want to give you credit there for staying through to it. Now you're up to a whole bunch of new stuff. Let's talk about what you're up to.
Yeah, I think one thing I didn't say is like if you're going to be an entrepreneur, any business or any career, it doesn't matter if you're working for somebody, there's going to be ups and downs and dips. There's a great book by Seth Godin called The Dip, but there's going to be a lot of ups and downs. And the only thing you can do is and I'm just bringing it up. This is just me. I mean, if it wasn't for my faith, I probably wouldn't have made it. It's just like on my marriage. I've been married 31 years. And if you've been married for any long length of time, 5 years, 10 years, 15, doesn't matter. You're going to have a lot of dips, a lot of things happen. And how do you stay in the game? How do you keep renewed? How do you rediscover? And I think if you're grounded in faith and you believe that, just like today, I got up at 3 in the morning and I do a little reading, and the verse for my day with today was Psalm 118. This is the day the Lord had made. We rejoice and be glad in it. So if you can get that mindset, and just like the message was, when the going gets tough, everybody's tempted to complain or quit or say this is not the right thing. But if you can say, hey, just for today, I'll keep my mind focused, even if things are hard, even if your relationships, like my wife and I have gone through a lot of dips, and it just keeps saying, okay, today I'm going to be positive. Just for today, I'm going to develop my character. Just for today, I'm going to check my emotions. Just for today, I'm going to risk. I'm going to love deeper. I'm going to serve better. I'm going to just live for this day. And if you keep doing that day after day, and you stay in a good frame mind, good things will happen. I mean, there's always going to be that, like me, I'm 64. I know I don't look it, but but I'm going to work another 10 years. People say, well, why don't you retire? It's like people don't realize that retirement was a made up word by the government. People used to only live to 65. Now people are living to 85. My father-in-law worked till he was 80. My dad worked till he was 75.
Yeah.
And it's like retirement. I read a great book by Bob Buford, Game Plan, moving from success to significance in life. And for people that are listening to you, they're probably younger, but some of that are over 45, 50. The first half is all about building, pursuing, putting money away, trying to put money away. The second half is about significance and how do you go deeper in your life and your relationship. He says you may retire from your work, but you don't retire from your calling. Mm-hmm. So if your calling is to serve, help people, volunteer, don't think, when you turn 60, 65, 70, oh, I'll just coast. It'll be easy. Because I know people that retire and they're dying.
That's what it is. You see it all the time.
Yeah.
No purpose to live, nothing to go for, nothing to wake up for. And I love your ambition to keep going. But while you're talking about books, let's not rush past your book. He's got an awesome book out there. Let's talk about it.
Well, Geronimo, that's the name of the street I live on. And I lived in Arizona for 20 years, then moved to Oregon, then moved back here 9 years ago. And the street was called Geronimo. My wife's been pushing me for 15 years to write a book. And just for the heck of it, I looked up that word Geronimo, and it has a lot of different definitions to it. It has, jumping out of a plane, you scream Geronimo, Indian, Geronimo. And Geronimo actually means a deep love. So I started thinking about that. And then I figured, jumps. And so I just put together the 8 jumps in my 64 years that I continually need to do, not just one time. Right. So it talks about those 8 jumps, the hero's journey, risk taking, faith, and just how to, and they're short chapters. They're only like 5, 7 pages with some exercises, and then how to go from, good to great, how to keep jumping in life, risk taking. And that's pretty much the book. You could read it in an hour, 90 minutes. And my mentors are in there, with their lessons. And what's that saying? You stand on the shoulders of giants. You don't do it alone. No man is an island, John Donne said. We're each part of the continent. We're all in it together, and how can we help each other, grow?
Entrepreneurship will get very lonely all the time. So having great mentors, people in your corner. For me, I also got the privilege of hosting a podcast where I bring on successful entrepreneurs and I pick up a few things from each episode. But before I let you go, which entrepreneur, Mark, dead or alive, who you have not met, would you choose to sit down with to pick their brain?
Well, that's kind of an easy one for me because, again, it's my faith. I would pick Jesus. Because even though you'd say, well, Jesus was an entrepreneur. Well, he kind of was. He created value. The entrepreneur is a creation of value. And how valuable was he to people? Even if they didn't believe, he didn't shoo them off. He kept creating value wherever you walked, wherever you went. he inspired people. That's what a good entrepreneur does, a great leader. They inspire people to see more than they do in themselves. A great leader just takes people in a direction they wouldn't go on their own. That's what John Maxwell talks about. That's leadership. And that's all an entrepreneur, a person who inspires, gives people hope. And that's the people you want to hang around with. You don't want to hang around people that are negative all day and looking at there's a lot of problems, right?
We all have problems.
People say, though, the world, it's like, it's been going on forever. But hang around people who are like going to make a difference and be a difference maker. That's the key. And don't grow weary in doing good. There's a saying in Galatians, don't grow weary in doing good, for in due season you'll reap a harvest if you don't give up. So don't give up, do good, and good people will come in your lives. You'll be surprised. Surprises will always come. And it's a good way to live.
I appreciate the strong closing words. Mark, thank you so much for making time to join us here on That Entrepreneur Show. Where can we find you online, and where can we find the book?
The book's on Amazon. If you punch in Geronimo, other books come up. You put in my name, and then my website, greatnessinstitute.com. And even though it's geared more towards the entrepreneurialism dentistry, all the stuff can apply to any field. And I do some coaching on the side that are not dentists. I take people ask me to coach within their companies, or someone that's wanting to become an entrepreneur. I say, well, this is the steps, and these are some of the things, to have a couple weekly calls or walk people through it.
I appreciate you giving that little preview there. Everyone has a lot of value from many ways.
So what's that hat you're wearing, man? New York Jets.
Problem with
Chicago. I grew up in Chicago, so I'm a diehard Bears.
You gotta represent when they stink, because most people will only wear it when they're winning, and that's not a real fan. I mean, the Jets. I'm 33. I think we've won the division maybe twice. I don't think maybe.
Pretty good though.
We haven't had a. I think we're the longest playoff drought of any professional sports team.
Bears are pretty close, but we had Walter Payton. We had the.
we didn't have much here, but everyone. I would love to hear what team you root for. Please reach out to me. I'd love to feature you on the next show. My name is Vincent A. Lanci, and thank you again for tuning into That Entrepreneur Show. Remember to subscribe to stay current with our next episodes, and our show is brought to you by Coming Alive Podcastproduction.com. Mark, we're signing off. Thank you so much, Vincent, for stopping by.
Take care, buddy. Take care.